Hey everyone, Danielle here with a little video showing you how I made this one layer card. I made it for the online card class that I just took, Clean and Simple Card Making, and I had a few people ask if I would do a video showing how I went about doing it. So here I am. Hopefully the kids nap long enough so that I can get through this. But I'm just going to go step by step how I made this card. Obviously you could take the knowledge and do whatever you want, change the stamps and the colors and sentiment and everything else. For this card I did change the sentiment because I needed a thinking of you card. But so you're going to start with your plain craft cardstock, and in order to get this area that has no background on it, we're going to use a mask. So I went ahead and I actually did a test card, so I stamped the sentiment, the thinking of you sentiment, on a piece of just plain, this is actually printer paper. You want, if you're doing masking, you want the paper to be as thin as possible so that when you stamp over top of it, you don't get any gaps between your mask and the stamp. If it's up too high, it's hard sometimes to get a nice, to get your stamp to go flat and get a nice image. So I used printer paper. I stamped my sentiment ahead of time and cut it out so I knew how big I wanted my mask to be. And then I'm just gonna eyeball it right now. If you wanted to use a ruler or something so that it was really straight, you certainly could. But I'm just gonna eyeball it. And like I said, I actually practiced once before I shot this video just to make sure. That's why it already has a stamped flower on there, so I apologize. So that's that. So you put your mask down, and then you're gonna, first step is to do the background. So I chose the happy background from Hero Arts, and I'm just gonna ink up the whole thing with my Colorbox Frost White ink. And you wanna make sure you get a lot of the ink on there, because the craft cardstock will soak some of it up. So you want to make sure you put enough on there so that even when it dries, it kind of pops against the background. So just really ink it up. You could use a stamp press to do this, which I actually have right here, but rather than use it, I'm just going to eyeball it and do it this way. So there's my stamp inked face up, and then I'm going to take my card with the mask on it and just lay it on top. Pray that it lands on the stamp straight, and then just go around with my fingers, pushing down to make sure I get a nice, good stamped image. You could use a brayer if you had one, you know, roll it over. That's actually a tool I don't have. I should probably get one. Or, like I said before, you could use your stamp press and get a nice stamped image, but why would I do that the easy way? So I'm just going around pressing firmly to make sure I get a nice, even stamped image, especially around the mask. Alright, and then peel it off. Ta-da! So I'm pretty happy with that. The next step is going to be adding on the flower and the leaves. So this is kind of not super time consuming, but it takes a few steps. So instead of just stamping straight on here with the red ink, I did white first so that when I did go back with the red, it would really pop. Because if I just stamped red onto the craft, it might kind of fade into the background. So I figured if I did a layer of white first and then red on top, it would probably have a better chance of really popping. So you just ink it up with the white Colorbox ink, and then I'm gonna lay it down wherever I see fit. So obviously this is gonna look a little different than the original, but, and press down really firmly just to make sure. Alright. Perfect. Now because I am going to stamp over this white and red, I want to make sure that it's dry so that it doesn't mix with the red a whole lot. So I'm going to take my heat gun and just kind of heat set the white ink that I just put down. then I need to obviously clean off the white from my stamp. And I just use baby wipes. Get all the white off, and then I always have a scrap piece of paper just to make sure. Alright. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to ink it up with the red. I'm using this Hero Arts Punch chalk ink. The only downside, it gets great color, it's super vibrant. The only downside is it does stain your stamps. And I've used Ultra Clean and it still stays red, which I don't mind. It doesn't interfere with any future stamping, so I don't really care a whole lot if it's red. But you could use another pigment ink, or you could probably try it with a dye ink. I just knew that with the chalk ink it would be really vibrant. So, and then you could use a Stamp-A-Majig. That would be the smart thing to do, but again, why would I do that when I can do it the hard way? And you're just going to try and line it up as best you can with the image you just stamped in white. So, here we go. I apologize if my head gets in the way here, but... So you line it up and push down and pray that you got it pretty close to the original white stamp that you just did. You want to make sure you press down really firmly, just to be sure. And lift. Ta-da! So, I'm really happy with how that turned out. Thank goodness. And the next step is we're going to do the leaves, and we're going to do the same thing, except now I don't want my flower to get green stamps, to get the green leaf on it. So I went ahead and pre-stamped the flower on some computer paper, cut it out, and I'm going to take my temporary adhesive and just put some on there, and then do the same thing. I'm going to line it up. And because of where it landed, I think I'm only going to do one leaf on this one. So I'm going to take my leaf, do the same thing, ink it up with the white first. Figure out where I kind of want it. Stamp it. Clean it off. And then I'm going to use my heat gun to set the white ink that we just used. And then I'm going to go back with, where did it go? Hero Arts chalk ink, and this one is the grass. It's a really nice bright green. So ink that up, and then same thing, just line it up as best you can with the white one you just did. Push down. And ta-da! Now, in the original card I did 2 leaves, but since this flower landed a little farther down, I think I'm just going to do the 1. So here comes the fun part. This is when you get to peel off all of your masks. So I'll take off my flower, and you can see where you got the nice flower, the nice leaf stamped. And then I'll peel off this. And we have a nice white area. You can see over here my mask didn't go quite far enough, so actually what I'll do before I give this is I'm just going to take my paper trimmer and trim really close right along the edge there to get that little bit of red off. But all in all, I am pretty pleased with how it turned out. So the last few steps are to stamp your sentiment. So this time I'm going to use Thinking of You. In the original card it said happy birthday. So I'll do my Thinking of You. Now you have this nice clean area here. There's this black spot, but that's actually a mark in the cardstock. So I'll stamp my sentiment. And I'm going to take my white gel pen and just right along the border, right along the edge here, just do some like faux stitching. And I'll link to all the supplies, all the ink and the stamps and the pen and everything down below. The Thinking of You sentiment is also a Hero Art stamp. Okay. And the last thing that I did was I used my corner chomper and did a quarter inch rounds on the edge. So there you have it. And like I said, I'm gonna go, actually I'll do it right now, I'm just gonna trim off the very edge of this because I have a little bit of red, and me being the anal retentive person that I am, can't stand it. So let me just slice it off real quick. Alright, perfect. So now you can see I have that little red that was over here is gone. So here was the original. Here's the one I made now. I think I actually will add another leaf down here, but anyway. So you get the idea. Hopefully you learned a little something. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I'm going to link to all the supplies that I used at the bottom of this post. So thanks for watching. Make sure you stop back on Friday because I'm going to have the first video in a series that I'm going to start, and I would love it if you came and watched. So hopefully I'll see you on Friday, and have a good week.